There's no need to mention the historical impact of the National Socialist phenomenon in Germany or its leader, Adolf Hitler. World War II marked a turning point in the 20th century, both in world history and especially for the German nation. But how much do we really know about the long road Hitler took to seize power? How much do we know about the decisive events? During the pivotal years of 1932 and 1933, a 43-year-old former soldier from Austria was appointed Chancellor of Germany. While alarms of a civil war sounded amid a great economic depression, what was Adolf Hitler's path and journey to the top of power like? We're about to learn an extraordinary story. History is coming. This is Reynaldo Carrillo speaking. This is the New Encyclopedia, and I invite you to support us by subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and leaving your comments. We always read them all. By activating the bell, notifications, and above all, sharing it with all your friends on social media, WhatsApp, and any other platform. Without further ado, let's start today's video. To clarify Hitler's rise beyond myths and distorted ideas, we need to go back to World War I. Germany was a constitutional monarchy ruled by Kaiser Wilhelm II, the famous Second Reich, or the Second German Empire, which also had aspirations at that time to seek new markets and territories. But the outcome of the war was very harsh for the Germans, who were convinced of victory. The army suddenly capitulated at the end of 1918, and the United States, Great Britain, France, and other allies were the new victors. Did Hitler take part in this war? And when he heard the news that they had capitulated, he was hospitalized because he had been left partially blind after a mustard gas attack. Before and during the war, Germany saw years of rising revolutionary, socialist, communist, social democratic, liberal, and nationalist groups. Before their defeat, while still at war, they specialized. Especially left-wing groups in Germany promoted an internal revolution that led to the abdication of Kaiser Wilhelm II. In this way, the Second German Empire comes to an end and a liberal parliamentary republic is established, which is the period known as the Weimar Republic. The German surrender, in turn, imposed harsh economic obligations on German finances and on the loans given for its reconstruction. It was a time of severe hyperinflation and intense debate, during which the parity of one gold mark reached the cost of 1 trillion paper marks. After the war, disappointed, Hitler briefly served as a representative of the Soldiers' Council to Bavaria's civil authorities. The following year, Adolf is recruited to work in the information office of the military administration, which was a kind of military and political intelligence apparatus for the Bavarian authorities. In these intelligence tasks, in order to gather information, Hitler and 2 colleagues attend a meeting of the tiny and almost unknown German Workers' Party in September 1919. It was a nascent political organization made up of old soldiers and German nationalist groups with a working-class socialist, anti-liberal, and anti-Marxist orientation. Electrified by the heated debates that took place there, Adolf Hitler decided, after a month, to join the party with the number 555. On March 31, 1920, he was discharged from the army, marking a new beginning. At that time, it was nothing more than the career of a young German among thousands of Germans who were getting involved in politics. Because of his expressiveness, charisma, and tireless energy, Hitler quickly rises through the German Workers' Party leadership ranks. He plays a key role in developing and promoting a political program presented in February 1920 in Miller. Some of its principles included the need to expand the nation's territory for the German people, the revocation of the Treaty of Versailles, the irrevocable union of German nationality to Aryan blood under the vision of land and soil, the revocation of citizenship for groups considered anti-German, and the prioritization of Germans in all institutions. Shortly after, the German Workers' Party changes its name to the National Socialist German Workers' Party. They also create the assault section, the well-known brown shirts, which would become the party's armed militia. By this time, Hitler takes on important roles in propaganda to give visibility to the party and the movement. This leads to a significant initial growth, in contrast to the tiny party it was before. By 1922, Hitler was already one of the most prominent leaders, and the number of party members had increased to 55,000 followers. The contest resonated with many more Germans. His dramatic and emotional gestures made his message easily understandable and able to reach the masses. Despite rising notoriety, the National Socialist Party openly rejected electoral democracy. And after a severe economic crisis in Germany, and inspired by Mussolini's March on Rome a year earlier, by 1923, the party made a big leap by trying to seize power in Bavaria in what became known as the Beer Hall Putsch. It was an opportunity to carry out a larger armed action to seize power in the country. But the coup in Bavaria fails spectacularly. Although the rebels temporarily take control of some offices, including the municipal headquarters of the armed forces and the Munich police headquarters, they are unable to secure other key points. During the event, the Munich police kill more than a dozen members of the party, while Hitler and other supporters are arrested, tried, and convicted of treason. Although the judges convict Hitler for his actions, they give him a light sentence of 5 years in a minimum security prison in a small Bavarian town in southern Germany. While he is in prison, the party, with little leadership, will become divided over key issues. Future Führer in prison? He devotes himself to writing a book, Mein Kampf, to lay the groundwork for spreading his controversial work, which is banned in some countries. But prison would be a short experience for Hitler. By December 1924, he was released, and now being more recognized in these circumstances. More than one becomes the first National Socialist. Now the thesis would be different. It would not be through violence, but through conquering the streets, the votes, and the elections that they would take control of the state. After years of qualitative growth, but not so much quantitative, in the 1928 parliamentary elections they obtained a disappointing 2.6%. However, the seed had been planted. The economic, social, and political problems in Germany worsened again after the financial crash of 1929. And this new crisis made many Germans start turning their eyes to those who proposed radical solutions. Such was the case with the National Socialist Party or even the Communist Party. At the same time, disagreement and ungovernability reigned in Parliament, with recurring changes of Chancellor and Cabinet. The only point of relative stability was the figure of Paul von Hindenburg, who had been the president of the government since 1925. By 1930, Germany holds parliamentary elections in which, amid this crisis, the National Socialist German Workers' Party receives 18% of the votes, a significant increase, making it the second most voted national force after the Social Democrats. Starting in 1930, the fragmented division within Parliament causes the Weimar Republic to stagnate, with weak governments not elected by Parliament, chancellors lacking legitimacy appointed by President Hindenburg. At the same time, street clashes led by the shock groups of the different parties were increasing, and the threat of a civil war. The whispers of it began to spread throughout Germany. In the midst of this, in April 1932, President Hindenburg won the presidency again, defeating Hitler in open elections. However, the most coveted position was the conquest of Parliament and the office of Chancellor. In June of that same year, 1932, Hindenburg appointed Franz von Papen as the new Chancellor of Germany. Von Papen was a conservative nationalist politician, not a National Socialist who had little support in Parliament. Meanwhile, Kurt von Schleicher, a well-known nonpartisan military leader and influential with Hindenburg, was appointed Minister of War at this time. The following month, in July 1932, parliamentary elections were held again in Germany, in which the National Socialist Party achieved a record result of 37% of the votes, becoming the most voted party in the country for the first time. However, they still didn't have enough seats to be able to form a government. He achieved the position of Chancellor through an appointment by the Reichstag. After the National Socialists, the most voted parties in this 1932 election were the Social Democrats, the Communist Party, the Zentrum, which was a centrist Catholic party, and the National Party, which was a conservative nationalist party. What was the main party of this type in Germany before the Nazis? Though lacking a parliamentary majority to appoint a chancellor, the National Socialists remained the most voted party. And in addition, due to the fragile government, there was a situation of unrest. Hitler asks President von Hindenburg and War Minister Schleicher to appoint him as chancellor and let him form his own government. But both Schleicher and Hindenburg flatly refuse. They were unwilling to give all the power to the National Socialist Party. They offer him, along with von Papen, to form a coalition government where Hitler would be vice-chancellor. However, Hitler also rejects this. At most, they appoint Hermann Göring as president of the parliament, but nothing more than that. Governmental anarchy was growing along with violence in the streets and rumors, not only of civil war, but also of a coup d'etat. In the midst of this chaos, Chancellor von Papen dissolves the parliament and decides to call new parliamentary elections for November of the same year, in 1932. In these elections, the National Socialist Party remained the most voted, but it lost more than 2 million votes, reaching only 33%. Hitler's maneuvers since the previous election and this new loss of votes had also caused problems within the party. Gregor
Strasser, the
leader of the left wing of the National Socialist Party. He urges Hitler to abandon his chancellor ambitions and consider joining a broad coalition government. Strasser, in turn, begins to conspire against Hitler in alliance with the same Minister of War, Bundesgleicher. A few weeks after this parliamentary election, in December 1932, Bundesgleicher manages to be appointed as Chancellor of Germany. His plan was for von Papen to be appointed as Vice-Chancellor to sideline Hitler. However, he fails in this plot because he can't secure enough support to form a government. Hitler reaffirms his leadership of the National Socialist Party in Parliament's top-voted force, still being the leading force in the government. After this new election, and with the governmental chaos continuing, negotiations between the National Socialist Party and President von Hindenburg begin to progress better, although still without results. Franz von Papen, an ally of Hindenburg and the nationalist conservatives, was the one who improved negotiations with Adolf Hitler. Von Papen, in this way, would convince Hindenburg to appoint Hitler as Chancellor of Germany and von Papen as Vice-Chancellor, in exchange for a government made up of members of the National Socialist Party and members of the Nationalist Conservative Party, convincing Hindenburg that in this way they could moderate Adolf Hitler. With no other possible alternative in which he felt confident amid an imminent German civil war, Hindenburg agreed to the plan and swore in Adolf Hitler as the new Chancellor of Germany on January 30, 1933. A measure that, beyond later judgments, would soon result in the pacification of the country through the establishment of an imperial dictatorship. Now, at the moment when Adolf Hitler came to the Chancellorship, the national chaos would continue. Hitler resorted to a series of legal, political, and violent maneuvers to, in less than 2 years, rise as the absolute leader of Germany. Pacts with big capital, approval of enabling laws, dissolution of the office of president into a single one with that of chancellor. Under the title of Führer, the gradual introduction of army commanders and both external and internal purges would elevate him as the leader of the Third German Empire. But the story of his life and his early years in government is a video that we will release at a later time. Thus, from being a soldier, one of millions disillusioned by the Treaty of Versailles, to joining a unique small party with under 1,000 members, Hitler was paving the way so that 10 years later he could usher in this tumultuous, revolutionary, and bloody era that culminated in World War II. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the video, and your support means a lot to us. Always sharing the content, leaving your comments, liking the video, turning on the notification bell, and interacting with the channel in general. Thank you all very much, and may God bless you.